there, my name is Hannah, and I'm a master's candidate here at Trent University. I study shorebirds. Shorebirds are a group of long-distance migratory wading birds that have faced widespread population declines over the last 50 years. The problem is, we still don't really understand what's causing these declines. It could be due to any number of factors throughout the entirety of their migratory range. Arctic breeding shorebirds have faced particularly high population declines over the last few years. Whimbrel are large shorebirds that are closely related to curlews, like the believed extinct Eskimo curlew. They feed on invertebrates and berries, and generally, North American whimbrel breed in the Arctic and subarctic and migrate all the way down to South America, where they spend their winters. I study whimbrel in their subarctic breeding range in the Hudson Bay lowlands at Burnt Point Creek. The goal of my study is to better understand how weather variables might be affecting breeding behavior and migration habits of whimbrel. Something that I might be asking is, do rises in daily average temperature cause birds to start breeding earlier? And if so, how might that be affecting their migration? I really enjoy this work because conservation is really important. It took me to parts of Canada I never thought I'd go before. And because whimbrel are incredible, they fly all the way from the Arctic to the very tip of South America. I'm excited to talk to you now about my fieldwork, and I hope you guys think it's cool too. My fieldwork happens a long distance from our lab at Trent, so we start with a lot of traveling. The flight up to our study site was one of my favorite parts of our fieldwork this year. It's pretty amazing to see the Ontario boreal forest from so high above. Once we arrived at camp, we got straight to work. Basically, my day-to-day work involved searching for nests and trying to trap birds. Over the summer, my partner and I walked about 300 kilometers across beach ridges like this one, near the coast of the Hudson Bay, and most of our time was spent in the fen. So a fen is a kind of waterlogged, grassy area that whimbrel really like to nest in because it camouflages their nest really well. In this photograph, there is actually a whimbrel nest shown, just to show how hard it is to find them. It's actually right here towards the bottom. You can barely see the eggs poking out. Sometimes we would get lucky and accidentally stumble upon a nest, but most of the time we found nests by watching the movements of parents. So when a parent sees a predator, it gets nervous and it flies off the nest, but if you wait for it to sit back down, you can pretty much figure out where their nest is. Once a nest was found, we'd get started straight away collecting data for my project. We'd take observations on the size of eggs, and then we would float the eggs to see how old they were. This allowed us to estimate when the nest was actually started by the bird. Once we collected all that information, we were finished up, and we marked the nest with a popsicle stick or two. We took GPS location, and we returned there every 3 to 5 days to monitor whether the nest had hatched or failed. The other major component of my project up at Burnt Point was trapping birds. Essentially, this worked by setting up a trap on a nest of a bird that we'd already found, and then waiting for the bird to sit back down so we could pull the trap and catch it right there on its nest. Once we trapped a bird, we would take notes for basic demographic information like bill length and wing size, and then we would attach little bands that identified the bird as an individual, and finally, we would attach a tag to the back of the bird that would allow us to monitor their movements down to their southern overwintering sites. Right here, I've shown a picture of a tag that I attached to another kind of bird, a dunlin. Essentially, the tag is constantly emitting radio signals that can be picked up by towers spread throughout the whimbrel's range. The map here shows where all the different towers in the world are, and when a radio tag on a bird goes by one of those towers, it pings the tower and lets me know that the bird was there and when it was there. So now that I have all my data, from weather data to nest data to migration data, I can put that all together and create a more cohesive image of how weather might be affecting breeding habits and migration behaviors of whimbrel. My next steps are to analyze this data and produce a thesis that I hope will be effective in informing conservation policies to protect this amazing species. This work was greatly enriched by the generosity of the W. Garfield Weston Foundation and the Canadian Wildlife Conservation Society. Your support has helped me to better understand what I want to do in my future, has helped me develop as a scientist, and has made me feel more confident as a young researcher. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed learning about the whimbrel and about my adventures in the Hudson Bay lowlands.
Enemies.